Assalamu alaikum everyone. So the today's lecture is about the evaluation of the reactor, and this is in continuation of the chapter number 6 that we have been studying to understand the process conditions. Now before starting the today's topic, I would just like to throw some of the highlights about the previous lectures. So we were talking about some of the process conditions, mainly in terms of temperature and the pressure that is easy to achieve, and if we want to go beyond those temperature and the pressure ranges, then we have to justify the reasons. So we have seen that in terms of the temperature, the acceptable range, it is from 40 to 260 degrees centigrade, and in terms of pressure we can play within 1 bar to 10 bar pressure. And obviously if we want to go beyond these temperature and the pressure ranges, then we have to justify the reasons. And in the last lecture we have considered the separators and the reactors, and if you want to use some kind of inert feeds in our system, then what could be the justification and what could be the penalties on the process itself. Now today we have to consider the evaluation of reactor R101, and we would see what are the conditions of the special concern and how we can address those conditions. So there are three conditions of concern in the evaluation of the reactor 101. So the first condition is the high temperature. So if we are going beyond 260 degrees centigrade, we have to consider this one as a concern, and we have to justify the reason. And the same is the case with the high pressure. So we have to see if the pressure is going above 10 bar. Then we have to consider the non-stoichiometric feed conditions. Maybe sometimes we have to use the inert into the process, and sometimes we need to use the excess reactant into the process to get more product. So we have to see these three conditions which are of the special concern in terms of reactor evaluation. Now let us solve this example, which we have been studying all the way from chapter number 1. So basically this one is the toluene dehydrodealkylation process, in which we are reacting the toluene with the hydrogen to get the benzene and methane. Now if you look at the equilibrium constant for this equation, then we see that we have this equation to estimate the equilibrium constant for this reaction. And in the same way we have the equation for estimating the heat of reaction. So we have this equation, and you can put the temperature here in this equation to get the value for the heat of reaction. Now we know that we are going to conduct the reactions at 600 degrees centigrade or 873 Kelvin. So we can use this temperature into this equation to estimate the value for the equilibrium constant, that comes out to be 265. And the same way we can use this temperature to estimate the value for the heat of reaction, that comes out to be minus 49,500 kilojoules per kmol, which shows that that this reaction, it is basically the exothermic reaction. Now we have to consider the equilibrium constant and the conversion of the toluene into the benzene side by side, and we would see that how we can analyze the reactor for this part. Now, information on the reaction kinetics. There are no side reactions, so there is only one reaction equation, so there are no side reactions. Reaction is kinetically controlled, so we have to consider the kinetic parameters. For example, this one, equilibrium constant and the heat of reaction, if we can use. So we have to use these kinetic information to analyze this process. Now what is equation here now, and what is the question here? The analysis of the reactor takes place in two parts. So you can analyze any reactor into two parts. First one, evaluation of the special conditions from the thermodynamic point of view. So the first condition is that we have to analyze the reactor for the special conditions from thermodynamic point of view. This assumes that chemical equilibrium is reached and provides a limiting case. So we have to consider the chemical equilibrium to address the thermodynamics. The second part here, evaluation of the special conditions from kinetics point of view. Okay, so first one is the thermodynamic point of view, and the second one is from the kinetics point of view. This accounts for the limitations imposed by reaction kinetics, mass transfer, and heat transfer. Okay, so the first point is from the thermodynamic point of view, and the second one from the kinetic point of view. From the thermodynamic point of view, you can see that what is the value for the equilibrium constant. And from the kinetics point of view, you have to see that how you can increase the rate of reaction, how you can increase the mass transfer and the heat transfer properties of the system. Now here are some of the graphs that we can consider for this example. Now what we can see here, if you see that there is an increase in the temperature, there will be a decrease in the equilibrium constant for the given equation. Now this kind of graph we can actually get for the exothermic reactions. So how do we know that we are having some exothermic reactions in our example? That if you go back here, you would see that there is a heat of reaction that is negative here, so it would indicate you that you are dealing with the exothermic reactions. Now for the exothermic reactions, you might have studied in the reactor design that with an increase in the temperature, there is a decrease in the equilibrium constant. Similarly, you would see another graph here that shows you that with the increase in the temperature, there will be an increase in the heat of reaction. So you can use that equation and you would put the values for the temperature, and you would see that with an increase in the temperature, there will be an increase in the heat of reaction, which is showing you the exothermic reaction. Okay, now what we are gonna do here, high temperature concern. So the first thing is here, and that if you look at these temperatures, so it is going above 260 degrees centigrade in both the cases. Okay, so it is starting from above 300. Okay, so you can see that first condition of a special concern is the temperature. The second one, figure 6.1 implies that reactions are exothermic. So as I showed you, that heat of reaction is negative for the toluene conversion into the benzene. The reaction that I showed you, that is an exothermic reaction. Now for the exothermic reactions, what we can see from the thermodynamics point of view, that if we increase the temperature, then the equilibrium constant decreases. Okay, so you can see this trend in this figure here. If you increase the temperature, there will be an increase in the equilibrium constant. Now the second thing here, decrease in the equilibrium constant is undesirable. So if you increase the temperature, there will be a reduction in the equilibrium constant. So it is undesirable because you can get less product in this system. Use of high temperature cannot be justified from the thermodynamic point of view. So from this information, you can see that the high temperature is not feasible from the thermodynamic point of view. Now let us see from the kinetics point of view. High pressure concern, reaction stoichiometry shows that there are equal number of reactant and products mole in the HTA reaction. So if you look at this equation and the stoichiometry of this equation, so if you increase the pressure on pressure of these gases, now what would happen? It would not impact the product production rate. Okay, so it will not affect the system. So reaction stoichiometry shows that there are equal number of reactants and the products moles in the HTA reaction, thus no effect of pressure on the equilibrium constant. Okay, so if you increase the pressure, it would not have any effect on the equilibrium constant. So there is no reason to use high pressure P from the thermodynamic point of view. Now for the given system, from the thermodynamics, we can see that increasing the pressure would not have any positive effect on the system. However, if you increase the pressure, what would happen? You have to use some additional compressor that would take more energy. Okay, but it is not feasible from the thermodynamic point of view because it is not increasing the product's production rate. Now let us solve this example here, 6.3, from the PFD presented in figure 1.5. So we figure 1.5, this one is basically the toluene hydrodealkylation process that we have been using all the way along. Now what we need to calculate here, calculate the actual conversion. Okay, and the second thing, evaluate the equilibrium conversion at 600 degrees centigrade. Now we have to calculate the actual conversion, and then we have to calculate the equilibrium conversion at the temperature of 600 degrees centigrade. Now we are provided with the equilibrium data and its impact on the pressure, and we also know the impact of temperature on the on this heat of reaction. So we have to use this information to calculate the actual conversion and the equilibrium conversion at 600 degrees centigrade. Now let us assume the ideal gas behavior, and we have this equilibrium constant equation, in which we have the products on the numerator side and we have the reactants in the denominator. And this is the equation that we can use to have an idea about the equilibrium constant. Now what we have here from the feed side, and we have some composition that we have at the inlet side to the reactor. So the hydrogen flow rate, it is 735.4 kmols per hour, methane 317.3, benzene 7.6, toluene 144.0, and total it is 1204.3. And we have to estimate the actual conversion and we have to evaluate the equilibrium conversion. Now how we are gonna do this thing? The first thing, actual conversion of toluene in exit stream, stream 9, it is equal to 36 kmol per hour. So let us see the flow sheet that we have here. So the stream number 9, now here you can see that what is the toluene flow rate, it is 36 kmol per hour. And if you look at this figure here, this is the inlet stream to the reactor, the number 6, and the 9 stream is the outlet. And we have to use these two streams to estimate the single pass conversion. Now here, actual conversion toluene in the exit stream, it is 36 kmol per hour. Now if you want to estimate the conversion, we have to use what is the total amount of toluene we have in the system, 144 kmols per hour. So you can see this one here, 144 kmols per hour in the stream number 6, and then minus 36 that we have in the outlet stream divided by 144. So the conversion of the toluene would be 75%, which is a single pass conversion basically. Now we have to estimate the equilibrium conversion at 600 degrees centigrade. So table 6 point shows, if you go back to the table, you would see the value for the Kp 265 on the temperature 600 degrees centigrade. So you can get this value for the equilibrium constant from that graph or the table. Table 6.6. so here you can see this one. Okay, from here you can get the value for the Kp here, that is 265. Basically we have used this equation to get the value for the Kp. Now coming back to the actual question here. Now for example, we want to estimate the equilibrium conversion. So we have provided with the value for the Kp, that is 265. Now we assume that L, let N would be equal to k moles per hour of the benzene formed. So by using that equation, this equation, we have the value for the Kp, and now we have put the value for the Kp here. Now here would be put on the numerator side, for example, N number of moles would be formed. So N plus 7.6. 7.6 is basically the number of moles of the benzene multiplied by number of moles of the methane. So we have to add up N plus 317 that we have in the stream number 6 here, 317. So basically we are trying to estimate that how many number of moles should be formed if we increase the equilibrium constant to this one, divided by, we can have this one, the number of moles of the toluene at the inlet, and then we can have the number of moles of the hydrogen at the inlet, but we will use the negative signs in the denominator. Now from using this equation, we would get the value for the number of moles of benzene that can be found from the given system. It would be 143.5 kmols per hour. Now if we can get this much amount of the number of moles of benzene from the given system, we can estimate the conversion of the benzene. So we can have the number of moles of benzene, 143.6, and then we can divide it with the number of moles of the toluene that we have in the system, 144. So you can get the value for the conversion that comes out to be 99.7%. So this is how we can actually estimate the actual conversion of the toluene, and then we can actually see that how much of the benzene can be formed and what should be the conversion of the toluene into the benzene at the given temperature using the equilibrium constant data. Now let us solve this example 6.4, which is in continuation with the example 6.3 actually. So the reference example 6.3, reduce the amount of hydrogen in the feed to the reactor to the stoichiometric amount, that is 144 kmols per hour, and determine the effect on the equilibrium conversion at 600 degrees centigrade. Now if you look at this stoichiometric here, so at this stream number 6, you would see that the hydrogen, it is 734 and toluene, it is 144. But if you look at the reaction, the stoichiometry suggests that there is a 1-to-1 ratio. However, we are putting the hydrogen in a very excess amount. Now what we would like to see here, if we reduce the hydrogen flow rate to 144 kmols per hour by matching the stoichiometry, and we have to determine the effect on the equilibrium conversion at 600 degrees centigrade. So earlier we have seen that at this temperature we can have 99.7% conversion of the toluene into the benzene, but now we have changed the hydrogen flow rate and we want to see that what would be the equilibrium conversion. The calculations are not shown, so you can perform the calculations by yourself. They are similar to those example 6.3b. The total moles of hydrogen in the feed were changed from 734 5.4 kmols per hour to the stoichiometric value of 144 kmols per hour. The results obtained for the n, so similarly you would calculate the value for the n as we did in the earlier example. That comes out to be 128 kmols per hour, and then you can calculate the equilibrium conversion using the same equation. That comes out to be 89.5%. Now we have seen that there is a reduction in the equilibrium conversion if you decrease the hydrogen flow rate into the system. Now let us see what are the outcomes of this one. Example 6.4 reveals that the presence of large excess of hydrogen had a noticeable effect on the equilibrium conversion. Now we can see that the excess hydrogen, it is affecting the equilibrium conversion. The second one, the thermodynamic considerations do not explain the selection of high temperature and pressure and the presence of reaction products in the feed. Now from the simple thermodynamics, if you look at the graph for the temperature and the heat of reaction, that would not give you the information about the rate of reaction, or they will not give you about the equilibrium conversion or the overall conversion. Okay, so this is one of the thing. The large excess hydrogen is the only positive effect predicted from the thermodynamics. However, we can see the effect of using the additional hydrogen or the excess hydrogen, and we can see that how it can impact the overall conversion of the toluene into the benzene. So this is the thermodynamic advantage in the particular example, and here we have seen that what information we cannot get from the thermodynamics. Now, consideration of the reaction kinetics from the information provided in table 6.6, which give you the information on the heat of reaction and the equilibrium constant. In chapter 1, we know that the reaction takes place in the gas phase. So we know that from the given system, the reactions would take place in the gas phase. The reaction is kinetically controlled, so we have the values for the kinetic parameters, maybe equilibrium constant and the heat of reaction. There are no significant side reactions, so we know that there are no side reactions for the particular example. In a region where the reaction kinetics control, the reaction rate increases rapidly with the temperature as shown in the example 6.5. So we know that where we can control the kinetics of the reaction rate can increase rapidly with the increase in the temperature. So this is in particular with example 6.5. Now let us see what we have in the example 6.5 and how the reaction kinetics are changed with the temperature. The activation energy for the rate of reaction for the hydrodealkylation of the toluene is equal to 148.1 kilojoules per mole. What is the reaction rate at 600 degrees centigrade relative to that of 400 degrees centigrade? Now here we are provided with the activation energy of the reaction, which is coming from the reaction kinetics data. So the activation energy for this reaction, it is 148.1 kilojoules per mole. Now we need to calculate what is the reaction rate at 600 degrees centigrade. So we need to see what is the rate of reaction at 600 degrees centigrade relative to 400 degrees centigrade. Now here by using the Arrhenius equation, we are provided with the rate of reaction, and this is the equation for the rate of reaction that we can use having different temperatures. Okay, so we are provided with the value for the activation energy from the question. This one is a general gas constant, so the value is given here. T2, it is presented here as 400 degree centigrade because this one is a relative. The new temperature on which we want to calculate the rate of reaction, it is 600. So in terms of Kelvin, you can have it 73. And overall rate of reaction value is 430 and kilojoules per mole. Okay, from this equation. Now what you can see here from by comparison, this one, if you are increasing the temperature to 600 degrees centigrade, now what would happen? The rate of reactions have been increased nearly 3 times. So what can actually happen if we can increase the rate of reaction by increasing the temperature? Let's see. The size of reactor would increase by nearly 3 orders of the magnitude if the reaction were carried out at 400 degrees centigrade rather than 600 degrees centigrade. Okay, so at 400 degrees centigrade, we know that the activation energy is this one. However, if you increase the temperature to 600 degrees centigrade, then the rate of reaction is increased 3 times. So if we increase the rate of reaction 3 times, we can have 3 times less size of the reactor as compared to the activation energy with the value 148 kilojoules per mole. Okay, at 400 degrees centigrade. Thus, the effect of temperature is significant. Now here you can see that there is a significant effect of the temperature, and we can actually reduce the size of the reactor by increasing the temperature. Now, most reactions are not kinetically controlled, rather are controlled by heat or mass transfer considerations. Now we have to consider that there are certain reactions which use the catalyst, and they can be kinetically controlled. But there are some cases in which the reactions are even controlled by the heat and the mass transfer considerations, and simply relying on the Le Chatelier principle. Those reactions could be the equilibrium based reactions. Okay, so now let us see what is the effect of the high pressure concern. For the gas phase reactions, the concentration of the reactants is proportional to the pressure. Now, if you are considering the gas phase reaction and you increase the pressure on the reactants, then what would happen? The concentration of reactants would be proportional to the pressure. Now, it depends on the, if you simply look at the Le Chatelier principle, you would see the effect of the high pressure concern. And if you can get more number of moles in the product, then you can increase the pressure. Otherwise, you don't need to increase the pressure. If the reaction rate is directly proportional to the concentration, operation at 25 bar rather than at 1 bar would increase the reaction rate by the factor of 25. Okay, so there are some situations in which the concentration of the reactants for the gas phase, they are dependent on the pressure. Now, if you can increase the pressure for those gases reactions, you can ultimately increase the concentration, and if you increase the concentration, it will directly increase the rate of reaction. Now you can see this example here. If you increase the pressure from 1 bar to 25 bar, then you can increase the rate of reaction by 25% or 25 times. The effect of pressure is likely to be substantial. Now in the gas phase reactions, you can see that increasing the pressure, you can increase the rate of reaction. So that is beneficial for those gas phase reactions. Now methane and excess hydrogen. Now for the HDA and the hydrodealkylation reactions, we have to see the effect of methane and the excess hydrogen. There is a significant economic penalty for using more than 400 excess hydrogen in the reactor feed. So you can see this one here. The reactor feed, it is toluene, it is 144, and this one hydrogen, it is too much high, although we need a consistent stoichiometry. So by increasing the excess hydrogen up to 400%, obviously the size of the reactor would increase and the pipelines would increase. That would also impact the downstream equipments in terms of their size and operation. Large excess hydrogen is used in spite of the economic penalty because hydrogen plays an important role in the prevention of the side products. Now, why we are using the hydrogen in such much excess amount? Because it can avoid the production of the side products from the reactions. Methane behaves as an inert and occupies volume that must be handled downstream of the reactor. Now, if you're using the methane as an inert in the current system, that is acting as an inert, that would also increase the size of the downstream equipments or the reactors. Now let us solve this example 6.6. It has been proposed that we handle the hydrogen methane stream in the same manner that we handled the toluene and the benzene stream. Now the handling of the hydrogen and methane in terms of recycle or in terms of inert or the excess reactants in case of hydrogen, we are handling the system in the same manner that we handle the toluene and the benzene stream. To use distillation for the separation of the methane from hydrogen as was used with toluene and benzene requires a liquid phase, which means high pressure with the cryogenic temperatures. Now here there is a constraint that we cannot separate the methane and hydrogen because they are in the gaseous phase, and toluene and benzene they are in the liquid phase. So for the liquid phase reactions here in this flow sheet, we can use a simple distillation process if there is a difference in the boiling points. However, in case of gases, how we can do the separation? If we go for the cryogenic separation processes, then we have to liquefy the hydrogen and the methane, and then we can use a distillation process to separate this one, which is a very expensive process. Alternatively, membrane separation can be considered. Now, for the separation of the hydrogen and methane, the membrane separation could be one of the technology that can be used for this separation. Now, let's see what is the summary of this chapter. If we want to go less than 40 degrees centigrade, then we have to use some kind of refrigeration processes. So these are the temperature and the pressure ranges. If you want to go above 250 degrees centigrade, then we have to use fired heated or the furnaces. If we are operating any process above 400 degrees centigrade, then there would be some issues on the material of construction. If we are going to operate any process with the pressure less than 1 bar or 1 atmospheric, then we have to create some vacuum with some special equipments, and we would be having the large equipments in our system. And similarly, if we are going to operate any process at a pressure above 10 bar, then obviously the size of that equipment and the thickness of that equipment can be increased. That would increase the cost of the overall process. Now, in terms of summary, we have the pressure here on the left hand side, and we can have the temperature on the right hand side, and this is the easily achievable temperature and the pressure range that is shown by these lines. So if you want to go below 1 bar or 1 atmospheric, you can have the large equipment. If you go above 10 atmospheric pressure, you need to increase the thickness of the material of construction or the thickness of the equipments. If we go less than 40 degrees C, you would have some kind of refrigeration cycle, and if you go above 250 degrees centigrade, you need to have some required fired heater, and even if you go beyond 400 degrees centigrade, then you have to see the material of construction for the equipments that can handle this much high temperature. Now, overall, we have learned to identify process conditions that are of special concern in the analysis of the PFD. So we have analyzed the temperature and the pressure conditions, and we see that what could be the justifications and the penalties on the process. By comparing the process conditions from the PFD to those given in the tables, we learned to analyze why these conditions were selected for the process and where improvements can be